Hello students, in today's lecture we are going to talk about the elastic constants. Some of these elastic constants we have already discussed. One of them was Young's modulus or modulus of elasticity E. The other one was the modulus of rigidity G. We discussed about the effect of application of load, and it causes the strain to be produced in the direction of the load. But it has been found experimentally that not only the strain is produced in the direction of application of load, but in the other directions also. So experimentally it is found that axial strain of a body is always followed by an opposite kind of strain in all directions perpendicular to it. So let's take the case of this prismatic bar. A load of magnitude P, a tensile load of magnitude P is being applied on the body. It will cause this body to get elongated, and as a result of it, the length of the body get changed from L to L plus delta L. Now not only this will be the effect of the application of load, but there will also be the change in the other dimensions of the body. So because the material is flowing in the primary direction of application of load and the body is being stretched or elongated, there will be simultaneous decrease in the thickness and the width of the body, which may be given by T minus delta T and B minus delta B as shown over here. So as such we can divide these strains in two kind of strains. One is the primary or linear strain. This is the strain which is being produced in the direction of the load, and the strain which is produced in the other directions are termed as secondary or lateral strains. So though we haven't applied any load in the direction of width and thickness, but there is a change in the width and thickness of the body, and that's why the strain is being produced. So such strains are called as secondary strain or the lateral strains. Scientists tried to discover the relationship between the primary strain and the lateral strain. So they carried out the experiments, and in the experiments it is found that the lateral strain ratio to the linear strain is always a constant. So because of this relationship, this constant value is being evaluated, and this constant value is found to be different for each of the material that is being used. This constant is called as Poisson's ratio, and it is usually represented by mu, or in some literature you can find it as 1 by m, or some literature even prefer to call it nu. We are going to use the mu as Poisson's ratio in this discussion. So from this relation we can find that lateral strain can be calculated using this formula as mu times of the linear strain. The value of mu is also found to be equal in tension and compression usually. Some of the typical values for mu which are calculated for different materials are listed here. Like for steel, the value of mu is between 0.25 to 0.33. For aluminum it is 0.32 to 0.36. For rubber it is 0.45 to 0.5. But it is always less than 1. So the lateral strain will always remain less in comparison to the linear strain. And you can see that the highest value we are getting is here for the rubber. You can find that some of the lowest values are coming for the concrete, which is usually in the range of 0.1 or 0.2. Now let's do a numerical to understand this more clearly. Here we have a rod which is of total 6 meter length, and it is of varying cross section. Half of it is of 2.5 centimeter diameter. The other half of 3 meter is of 5 centimeter diameter. We are terming these sections as section 1 and section 2. It is being applied with the tensile load P, whose magnitude is not given to you in the numerical. What you have been given in this numerical is, apart from these geometric dimensions, is the value of stress that is being produced in the section 1 or the smaller section of 2.5 centimeter diameter, and its value is 112 megapascal. The material of the rod is given, so you know the value of modulus of elasticity, which is 200 gigapascal, and the Poisson's ratio is given as 0.15. So these two material parameters are available to us. You are supposed to calculate the total elongation of this rod along with the change in the diameter of the small section. Now let's go for the first part, that is where we need to calculate the total elongation of the body. In order to calculate the total elongation of the body, we need to know the value of the load that is being applied on the body. So as you know the value of stress, and if you calculate the area, you can calculate the value of load by multiplying the stress value with the area. So the first thing is to calculate the areas of these two sections, as they are circular one. So you can use pi by 4 d square to calculate the area of section 1 and section 2. Now as we know the stress value for the section 1, if we multiply it by the corresponding area value A1, so sigma 1 A1 will give you the value of the load that is being applied, and it turns out to be the 55 kilonewton, 55 into 10 raised to power 3 Newton. Like the previous numerical we have done, to calculate the total elongation, we will calculate the elongation of the individual section, delta L1 plus delta L2, and we know that the formula for this will be PL by AE. So by applying the formula for each of this section, the load value remains the same for both the sections, so that is P, and the material value constant E remains the same. The geometric parameter L1 by A1 plus L2 by A2 remains over here in this bracket. After substituting the value of different parameters, we get the total elongation, or we can calculate the total elongation as 0.0021 meter, which is 2.1 millimeter. Now in the second part of the numerical, we need to calculate the change in diameter of the small section. Now in order to calculate the change in diameter of the small section, we need to know the strain that is being produced in this section. And for calculation of the strain in the diameter side, which is the lateral side, because the primary direction is the length direction, so the linear strain is in the direction of the application of load, so we need to calculate the lateral strain. First we calculate the longitudinal strain in the smaller section, and as we know the stress value which is given to you, so by using the Hooke's law, if we divide the value of the stress by the Young's modulus, we get the longitudinal strain being produced in the section 1. And if we multiply the longitudinal strain with the Poisson's ratio mu, we will calculate the lateral strain, and the magnitude of is 0.5 times 0, 84. Once we get the lateral strain, if we multiply it with the original diameter of this section, we can calculate the change in diameter, which turns out to be 0.000021 centimeter. Now we know that the application of load will cause the change in the dimensions of the body. So not only there will be change in the direction of the application of load, there will be change in the other directions like width or thickness part of it. So because there is a change in the dimensions of the body, there will be change in the volume of the body as well. So we define the volumetric strain as the change in the volume delta V divided by the original volume of the body. Let's calculate the change in the different type of bodies because of the application of load. Let's first calculate the volumetric strain of a rectangular body which is subjected to an axial force. So here we have a rectangular object of length L, width B and thickness T, which is being acted up by the tensile load P in the primary direction or the length direction. Because of this, there will be change in the length of the body. The body will get elongated by the magnitude delta L, and its magnitude will be given by PL by AE formula that we know about, which we calculated, which we derived earlier. As the area of cross section here is the width times of the thickness. So this is our area of cross section here, which is B into T. So we substitute for area as B into T here. So we get delta L as PL divided by BT into E. So this, with the help of this, we can calculate the linear strain, and the linear strain value will be given by the deformation delta L divided by the original length of the body, that is L. So this turns out to be P by BTE. Once we have calculated the linear strain, we can find the lateral strain by multiplying it with the Poisson's ratio. So it will be simply mu P divided by BTE, because the lateral strain is mu times of the linear strain, epsilon. After calculating lateral strain, we can find the change in the thickness of the body by multiplying the strain in that direction, which is lateral strain, with the thickness of the body or the original thickness. So that is mu P divided by BT. So finally you will get mu P by BE. Similar way, you can calculate the change in the width of the body by multiplying the lateral strain with the width of the body, which turns out to be mu P divided by TE. We can calculate the lateral strain in the thickness direction by again dividing delta T by T. So you will see that it will turns out to be mu P by BTE. Similarly, for change in width will be in the width direction, the lateral strain will be mu P by BTE, which we have calculated earlier. So as a result of the tensile force being applied, the length of the body get changed from L to L plus delta L. And the width of the body get changed from B to B minus delta B, and the thickness get changed from T to T minus delta T. So these are the new dimensions of the body after the application of load. The original volume of the body was L into B into T. It was a rectangular body, and the final volume will be obtained by multiplication of these new three dimensions of the body, that is L plus delta L, B into multiplied by B minus delta B multiplied by T minus delta T. Let's do some calculations, and let's bring out the L, B and T common or outside of these brackets, which will leave us with this expression. And once we multiply all these three bracketed terms, we are going to obtain the terms which I have written here 1 plus delta L by L minus delta B by B minus delta T by T, and there will be some smaller terms. Why I am saying smaller term? Because the change in dimensions are small. So delta L by L, these strains are very, very small, and the multiplication of a very small quantity with another small quantity like delta L by L multiplied by delta B by B or delta B by B multiplied by delta T by T are further very small quantities. So I have written them as together as small terms, and we can neglect them because they are very, very small. So if we neglect them, what we are left with is this expressions of bracketed term and the outside constants, outside geometric values, L into B into T. Now, as we have obtained the final volume, we can calculate the change in volume of the body by subtracting the original volume from the final volume. So final volume being subtracted from the original volume, so if you subtract L into B into T from here, this one will go away and you will be left with this expression. As we know that L into B into T is defined as volume V, so I am written for L into B into T I have written here as V. Now what are these terms? These terms are nothing but the strain in the direction X. If we say that the length direction is the direction X, the width direction is the direction Y, and the thickness direction is the direction Z. So in that sense, this delta L by L is nothing but the strain in the direction X, minus delta B by B is nothing but the direction strain in the direction Y, and minus delta T by T is nothing but the strain in direction Z. So we get a very important relation here, that the volumetric strain epsilon V can be defined as the ratio of change in volume divided by the original volume, and it will always be equal to the strain produced in the three mutually perpendicular direction, which are given by x, y and z. So epsilon x plus epsilon y plus epsilon z. Now let's go further and let's use this expression again from here. So we can define epsilon V is equal to delta V by V, and you get this term from here. And if we substitute the value of delta L by L, delta B by B and delta T by T, which we calculated earlier during this derivation, we will obtain this expression. After bringing out the P by BT common, we will be left with 1 minus 2 mu, and we have already defined the P by BT is epsilon, the linear strain. So that's why epsilon V, the volumetric strain, can be given in terms of the longitudinal strain as epsilon times of 1 minus 2 nu. So using this formula, if we calculate the longitudinal strain, we can calculate the value of the volumetric strain. Right now we just discussed a case of a rectangular body which was being applied load in only one direction, that was the direction x. What will happen in the case if a body is subjected to three mutually perpendicular forces at the same time? So if a body is being pulled in the direction, let's say x, simultaneously it is having some load being applied on the direction y, and in the same time it is being applied some load value, let's say in the direction z. So it will produce the stresses in all three directions, whose magnitude can be calculated and can be termed as sigma x, sigma y and sigma z. So if you know the value of stresses in direction x, y and z, we can calculate the strain in the direction x, y and z, such as the strain in the direction x will be, number one, it will be due to the load being applied in the direction x, or the stress in the direction x. So if suppose there is only this stress is acting, sigma x is acting, in that case the strain x would have been sigma x by E only. But now as the load is also being applied in the direction y of the same nature, so it will cause a decrease in the dimension or the opposite kind of strain in the direction x. So for the sigma y, the lateral strain that will be produced will be given with the help of formula mu times of lateral strain, longitudinal strain, that is mu times of sigma y by E. So, and as it is of opposite direction, opposite sense, so it will be minus sign will precede over it. Now the body is also being applied with a load in the direction z, which will produce stress of magnitude sigma z in the z direction, and the strain of magnitude sigma z by E in the direction z, and because of this there will be a strain that will be produced in the direction x also, whose magnitude will be given by mu times of sigma z by E, and it will be of opposite nature, so there will be minus sign preceding it. So you see here, because of the application of load in the direction x, there will be primary strain produced in the direction x, and because of the application of loads in the other two directions, there will be lateral strains produced, and they should be taken into account by using the formula minus mu by sigma y by E and minus mu by sigma z by E. Hence we can calculate the strain in the direction x using this formula. Similar way, for the direction y, there is a primary strain of magnitude sigma y by E, and because of the application of load in the other two directions, which are directions x and z, we can calculate the strain produced because of them, or the lateral strain produced in the direction y because of them, as mu times of sigma x by E and mu times of sigma z by E. In this way we can calculate sigma epsilon y and epsilon z also, as we have already obtained the relationship between epsilon v and epsilon x plus y plus x plus z. So if we substitute the value of these strains x and y and z, we will find that the volumetric strain can be given in terms of stresses sigma x, sigma y, sigma z, and mu and E. So you can calculate it using the stress values in all these three directions, and volumetric strain can be find out. Let's do a numerical. So in this numerical, you have a rectangular body whose dimensions are 125 millimeter in height, 50 millimeter in width, 25 millimeter in depth. This body is acted upon by three different forces. One is of the magnitude 1 mega Newton. It is of compressive nature. It is being applied on the face 125 into 50. There is another force of 100 kilonewton. It is of tensile nature and it is being applied on the face 25 cross 50. And then there is another force, the third force, that is of magnitude 400 kilonewton. It is also of tensile nature and it is being applied on the face of 25 into 125 millimeter section. We are also given the value of the material parameter such as Young's modulus and Poisson's ratio. We need to calculate the change in volume of the body, and the second part requires us to calculate the change in the value 1 mega Newton load, so that there will be no change in the volume of the body. So keeping the other two forces 400 and 100 kilonewton constant, how much we should alter the value of 1 mega Newton load so that the net change in the volume of the body is 0. So this is the second part of the question. Now let's go about and calculate the first part, that is the change in the volume of the body. In order to calculate the change in the volume of the body, we need to find the volumetric strain, and we know that for volumetric strain the formula was 1 upon E plus multiplied by sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z into 1 minus 2 nu. So let's calculate the stresses first in the three directions, sigma x, sigma y, sigma z, which are represented here with the direction 1, direction 2 and direction 3. So direction 1 is, we have taken the direction of 1 mega Newton compressive load. So the stress is load divided by area. So load is 1 into 10 raised to power 6 because 1 mega Newton, and it is divided by the area, corresponding area on which this load is being acted upon. So the area is 50 into 125 into 10 raised to power minus 6. Mind it, these dimensions of 50 and 125 and 25 are given in millimeter. So let's not forget to convert them into the meter. So that's why you get this 10 raised to power minus 6 over here. There is a negative sign preceding it. So this means because this load is of compressive nature, it will produce the compressive stresses. So we have put a negative sign over here. So finally the net calculated value will be minus 160 into 10 raised to power 6 Newton per meter square, or minus 160 megapascal. Similar way we can calculate the stress values in the other two direction. So for sigma 2, we substituted the load that is acting in the direction of 400 kilonewtons, 400 into 10 raised to power 3. It is acting on the cross section area of 25 into 125. This is the cross section area on which it is acting. So this is the value that we calculate with the help of it. It will be 128 into 10 raised to power 6 Newton per meter square. Similarly, if we substitute the load as 100 kilonewton, the corresponding area will be 50 into 25 on which it is acting, and the final value of sigma 3 that is calculated is 80 into 10 raised to power 6. Both the values are positive as they are the tensile loads. Now the volumetric strain epsilon v can be calculated by the formula we just derived above here. So we substitute the different values here. The modulus of elasticity is 200 gigapascal, so 200 into 10 raised to power 9 Newton per meter square. We substituted the values of the three stresses we have calculated. 10 raised to power 6, I have taken it out as common here, and it is 1 minus 2 mu, that is mu value is 0.3. The final volumetric strain is calculated as 0.000096. Once we find out the volumetric strain, we can calculate the value of the change in volume, and the change in volume will be given by volumetric strain epsilon V multiplied by the original volume. So here is epsilon V. The original volume was length into width into thickness of the body. So there is a total net 15 millimeter cube increase because of the application of all these loads on the body. Now the second part of the question demands us to calculate the value of 1 meganewton load to be changed in such a way that there will be no change in the body. We just calculated the change in the volume of the body is 15 millimeter cube, but how much we should change the value of that 1 meganewton compressive load so that the net volume change becomes 0. So as we know that the volumetric strain is given by this formula, and volumetric strain multiplied by original volume is the change in volume. So if we want that change in volume to be 0, this volumetric strain should actually be 0. So in order to epsilon V to be 0, basically we demand here that sigma 1 dash plus sigma 2 plus sigma 3 should be 0. I have represented the new value of sigma 1 as sigma 1 dash here. So the net value of sigma 1 dash, so that there is no change in the dimension in the volume of the body, will be obtained by minus of in bracket sigma 2 plus sigma 3. We substitute this value and we find this value to be as minus 208 into 10 raised to power 6 Newton per meter square. So this is the new stress value in that direction 1. And if we want to calculate the load value, so we need to multiply this stress value with the corresponding area, which is 50 into 2125, and we get the new change load as value as minus 1.3 meganewton. So basically we need to increase the load value of 1 meganewton to 1.3 meganewton if we demand that there is no change in the volume of the body. There are other bodies for which we calculate these strains, and let's do it in our next lecture.